Welcome to the A2G podcast. I'm Jacob.
And I'm Darren.
And welcome to the episode 11 of the A2G
11.
podcast. Yeah.
Start of 11, yes.
1-1. Yeah, gonna be a busy show today, I think.
Yes. Oh, Jake, before I forget, happy belated Earth Day to you.
Sure.
For those of you who didn't know, who weren't well informed, that yesterday was the Monday was Earth Day. So suck it, Mars.
Sure.
Yeah.
Are we seriously covering Earth Day right now?
We're not covering Earth Day. It's a fun fact.
Darren, did you plant a tree?
No. But,
okay, well then you know what? You screwed up on Earth Day.
But people should plant.
I drove my truck around extra yesterday.
Oh, great! So you extra pollution on Earth Day for you there, Jake.
Love it. Yes. All my lights were on. AC and the heat were on too at the same time.
Oh, geez.
But yeah, I think it's going to be a monumentous show for sports today. It's going to be our sports episode.
It's our sports spectacular.
Sure, yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Definitely. So let's start with that. What's up in the latest in the world of sports?
Lots going on in the world of sports. Everything from NHL playoffs to NBA playoffs to the NFL draft that's coming up. There's so much going on right now. Let's start in the NHL. Big game for my Leafs tonight. Game 7 in Boston. It's not deja vu. It's happening again this year. It happened last year. Didn't turn out so well for the Leafs, but hey, you have one game to just go in, get a win, and leave. That's it. So a lot of pressure on both teams because it's been a back and forth series this entire 7 games. So we'll see what happens tonight. That is at 7:00. So I'll be a nervous wreck by 7:05. So hopefully everything's going to be worked out. The Pistons, they got swept.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone surprised by that?
No.
It's
exactly what everyone predicted was going to happen.
Yeah. So I don't know if it was worth it for them making the playoffs just to get bounced in 4 games. But, it was nice seeing the I was about to call it the Palace, the LCA, the LCA nice and full. Might
as well be the Palace. It was just as empty most of the season.
Exactly. Yeah. So it was nice seeing a playoff atmosphere in Detroit, especially at the LCA. Good for the Pistons. Get a little experience and move forward. So hopefully they can
by 20 in a packed house.
Yeah, of course. But no one was expecting them to even win a game in this series. So the bar was set very low, and they definitely came under it. So hopefully in the offseason they can make some moves, maybe acquire some nice youthful defensive players who don't make as much money as Andre Drummond, but we'll see.
And we'll have more on the Pistons in one of our special segments near the end of the show.
Yes, I know Jake will be very excited for that. So NHL playoffs going on, NBA playoffs are rolling on. The Detroit Tigers are still somewhat relevant, even though it's still cold out in some days. So I don't even know why they're still playing in April. They should wait till May to start the season.
Too.
Yep. But I believe that their last game was postponed, so I think they're around 10-10 right now. So the Tigers are still topsy-turvy. It's going to be an up and down season for them, mostly down. And of course, we're going to have the big thing that's happening in Nashville this week on Thursday is the first round of the NFL draft. That's later on, the NFL draft. So the Lions obviously currently are going to be picking 8th overall in that draft. Lots of talk of them trading down and potentially even trading up, taking a quarterback, taking a defensive player, even maybe taking another tight end. There's a lot of possibilities for the Lions to do, and we'll have a special guest on today's show to discuss everything Lions draft related. Sean Baligian will join us later on in the show. So, but Jake, going back to the draft, I just want to get your thoughts on what do the Lions do with the couple days leading up to the draft.
Well, don't draft a tight end. Let's start with that. Don't do that. That's dumb. Well, they have the 8th overall pick. in my perfect scenario, the Lions would be trading down, hopefully as far down as possible, where they can get multiple picks.
Mm-hmm.
And with their luck, in my perfect world scenario, Montez Sweat keeps dropping down, and they pick him up because he is dropping. His stock is dropping because of
Yeah, but
possible heart condition,
sure,
and
but
if they get an extra maybe pick, if they trade down into the second round, and with more luck, my second favorite pick, Greedy Williams to cornerback, will drop down to the second round, and they can snatch him up to two
wow.
positions of need: defensive end, cornerback. That's my dream scenario. But there's a lot of positions that they do need. Even looking at it from uh, the offensive point of view, they need a running back, they need an offensive tackle, they need to bolster up the line. But this is a defensive-heavy draft. It should be no issues making the defense better. But this is the Lions we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So anything's possible. Kicker, long snapper, punter,
Punter.
anything.
Exactly. No, but I totally see where you're coming from, and I think most important thing that they have to do is they have to make sure that they have enough weapons for Stafford this year, because the past year it's all about Stafford had all these weapons, right, and he still couldn't get the job done. Now they kind of shift their focus to the defensive side of the ball, picking up Flowers, picking up all these Justin Coleman for the secondary help. Now they have all these weapons on defense. Do they switch back to offense? Maybe even take an offensive lineman in the first round with their first round selection.
That would be tragic.
Well, obviously Bob Quinn knows that he has done it before, taking Frank Ragnow.
That's right.
In the first round. So
well, I don't think it's important. Mm-hmm. I would wait till the second round to get an offensive player, definitely a lineman in the second round, because all the defense is going to go first. Defensive players are priority in this draft, looks like right now, looking at different mock drafts that are coming out all over the place. There's a lot of movement going on lately. People are thinking of a lot of people trading up, which is good for the Lions. If a lot of teams are trading up, that means they'll be picking players nobody else, the Lions don't want, because the Lions aren't picking a quarterback. That ain't happening. Stafford's gonna be here until he's 50. So might as well utilize that, and have somebody trade up, grab an extra pick, and see what happens. But you know what's scary, and looking at how high they're projecting certain players to go. For example, you have what's his name, Rashad Gary from Michigan. Rashawn Gary, edge rusher, not that good, but they're projecting him to go in the top 20 in the draft. He didn't do much.
Nope.
At Michigan last year, so I don't know. It's really weird. Really weird. I know. Well, that and they still have a tight end in the top 10 for most of these drafts. Some people are losing their minds here. I don't know why.
Right. No, absolutely. Just one quick note before we get to our guests talk about the Lions. I saw this interesting stat on how it's a rough time to be a Detroit sports fan in general, because obviously the Pistons got swept, right? And the Pistons have lost 14 straight playoff games, which is an NBA record.
Mm-hmm.
There, Jake. And of course, we talk about the Lions. The Lions last won a playoff game in 1991, which is the second longest active drought. And then there's the Wings that have missed the playoffs the last 3 years after making it the previous 25 years. And then the Tigers last won a playoff series in 2013.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of a dry spell when it comes to postseason success for all Detroit's sports teams.
That's right. The only way to go is up one day, eventually. One day.
Exactly.
But that's another show. We'll have a show where we predict which one of these teams actually wins something.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I don't count the Pistons making the playoffs as winning anything.
Yeah.
So What they were at 500 when they made the playoffs. Get out of here with that.
Just
That's
barely
not,
500.
yeah, they're at 41 and 41. Nonsense.
Exactly.
But that's our Lions talk to start with. Look, the draft's going to be crazy. Who knows what's going to happen?
Right.
Unfortunately, I will not this year. I will not be watching it live.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I know. So I'll be looking forward to rounds 3 to 7. Yeah, I'm that big of a loser where I will actually pay attention to what happens.
Well, the first round, I think, is only on the Thursday. They just do the first round, and then the
2 and 3 on a Friday.
Yeah, 2 and 3 is on the Friday. So, and I think there's more intrigue and excitement in the second and third round because obviously last year's second round, that's where they traded up to get Kerryon Johnson.
Yes.
So there is a lot of talent, especially in those second and third rounds.
Yes, that's why I'm hoping they trade down so they can acquire more picks for that second or third round. You need to get more players to actually get some talent on this team and not just be mediocre. You are playing one of the tougher, divisions in the league.
Mm-hmm.
So, like we discussed last week, our record's looking at 9 and 7 here for this team. So you need something to put you over the edge. You need a 10-win season. So you need at least enough players to get one more win out of it. Because, as we all know, Stafford isn't going to do it by himself.
No, absolutely not. It should be interesting, and obviously our guest Sean Baligian will get more info for us and for you, the listeners, of the upcoming Lions draft.
Yeah, so let's get to that now.
So join us to talk about the Lions draft and everything that is in the right mindset in Allen Park. Sean Baligian joins us on the ADG podcast. Sean, how are you today, sir?
Tremendous. Thanks for having me, guys. It's a pleasure to chat with you.
Great.
Yeah, we appreciate the visit. Definitely.
Well, it's my pleasure. It's you know what? It's I always laugh when people use the word job. Are you kidding me? We're lucky to be able to do what we do, and I'm sure you guys feel the same way.
Exactly.
100%.
Exactly. So, Sean, a couple days out before Nashville, before the first round picks, Lions sit at 8. So the big question to you is, do they take Dwayne Haskins at 8?
That's a great question. It's been out there for a couple months. And here's the biggest thing. I understand the logic behind it. And what I mean by that is this. It's not very often that a team can be in a position to take that quote unquote quarterback of the future and not stink, because the 2019 Detroit Lions are not going to be a 2-14, a 3-13, a 4-12 team. I caught some slack for this the other day when I said I don't even think they're a 6-10 team. A lot of variables went into them kind of falling back to 6-10. You couple that with the fact that Matthew Stafford's contract is a little more easily moved after this year. The number drops down and everything. You can understand the logic behind it. Now, with that being said, I don't believe that will be the pick. I really don't. That's kind of caught steam the last 24 hours. A buddy of mine who happens to be a scout has been talking about it for a few months. It's just something he heard. I have a feeling that's just your average run-of-the-mill smokescreen to generate what is already an incredible amount of interest in that 8 slot that the Lions are at.
No, I totally understand what you're saying here, because I believe Bob Quinn on the Ian Rappaport podcast said that he was open for business in trading down. So is that more of a likely going to happen, that if the guy that the Lions really want is gone by the time it rolls around them, they're going to back up and collect some more picks?
You know what's funny? I mean, all the years that I've been fortunate to do this, whether it be on the radio or doing stuff on television or doing stuff with you guys, normally I yell at people when they bring up the possibility of trading down. But I'm one of those guys this year. I think all signs point towards the Lions trading out of that pick. I really do. I think from a logical standpoint, the Giants at 6, obviously they're going to use a quarterback. I mean, one would assume with either the 6 or the 17. And then you have teams that potentially could do it at 10, 11, 13, and 15. So that is going to create a whole heck of a lot of intrigue, in my opinion, at picks 7, 8, and 9. I think those are the 3 picks that teams are going to be looking at. Now, one can assume that in all likelihood, Josh Rosen might be going to one of those teams because I just don't know how Arizona is going to make Murray and Rosen work. But still, you're talking about a multitude of teams that are going to be looking to get one of those quarterbacks. Could it be Haskins if he's still on the board? Could it be Daniel Jones? Could it be Locke out of Missouri? So that's what's going to be very intriguing about this draft. So I'm with you guys. If I were a betting man, the amount of times that you hear about a team willing to trade down and the amount of times it actually happened are two entirely different numbers. I think this is the year that Bob Quinn trades out of that deal.
Now, do you think this could be a perfect scenario for a defensive-minded coach like we have right now, where the Lions trade down and a deep draft of defensive linemen, we are able to not only draft down, but draft into a great position like a defensive tackle, defensive end that could boost this defense this season?
Well, you said it better than I did. I mean, honestly, because that's the key on why this can happen is because not only are you in all likelihood going to get a very good player. Let's say, for example, you trade down to 11 or 13 or 15. But what you hit on is what every scout that I know is saying. And I do a podcast with one of them. He has been saying for 2 months to anybody that would listen, this draft is incredibly deep once you get to about pick 20 all the way to, past pick 60. And you heard Bob Quinn even allude to that's where we're at. So there are a plethora of players. And when you talk about value, there's a lot of value to be had if you get that extra second round pick, if you get a couple extra thirds, whatever the case may be. If this draft is indeed as deep and as top heavy as they say it is, with maybe not full-fledged, to use a collegiate term, 5 stars, but with a whole bunch of 4 stars, boy, oh boy, I think it would behoove you to have a couple picks early on and maybe take advantage of that. And that plays right into the wheelhouse of what you're talking about.
Awesome.
Right. So Sean, you were talking about just a minute ago about them trading down. There's a lot of teams that are interested in that 8th spot. Is it going to be where, well, if we trade down with this team, we can still get this player, or is it whoever gives us the most amount of picks, we'll swap with you?
$1 million question. I mean, if the Lions really like somebody and, a guy that checks the boxes, so to speak, and I know that a lot of people out there aren't real excited about it, but I think everybody has to acknowledge he's kind of the Bob Quinn player, is Jonah Williams. Now, I would say it like this. Let's say, using 13 as an example, let's say you move out of the 8th spot and you end up getting a guy like Jonah Williams at pick 13 with an extra second round pick out of it. To me, that's a win. You can't look at it as just getting Jonah Williams, because I think the general mindset is if you go and get a guy like that, you're probably going to play him out of position this year to perhaps get him back in position. And I know I speak for a lot of Lions fans. Asking a guy to be something he's not is kind of become an old bit around here. But I think when you couple that with a guy that not only might be able to help your team this year, but certainly is going to be able to help your team in the future, because the one thing that Bob Quinn wants to do is he wants to get that offensive line set. That's the foundation for your success and for future success, and to catapult the Lions into that group of usual suspects that, are hopefully in the playoff mix year in, year out. But then you get that extra pick in a top-heavy draft like this. So I would always caution people, and I say this each and every year anyway, don't forget the draft doesn't end after day one. There are incredible values, incredible needs that can be filled. And in my mind, maybe, just maybe, that would take the damper off some people that maybe aren't, blown away by grabbing a guy like Jonah Williams. But you grab a guy like that and you get an extra, dare I say, second-round pick. And I think that's a pretty good deal. I think that's pretty good value to be had.
Without a doubt. Now, you said it's important to, it's not the sexiest pick, an offensive lineman, but
yep,
it's a pick of need, which the Lions kind of struggled with last year. The offensive side of the ball, Stafford did not have any time to do what we know he can do. So going into that, grabbing an extra second round, third round pick has been kind of trademark for Bob Quinn, because you've seen him last year when he stole. I can honestly say that he stole Deshaun Hand in the I believe the third round pick. is that becoming the Bob Quinn trading card, the trademark where he can go in and get those hidden gems in the late rounds?
Well, you know what? That's what you absolutely need. And I mean, when you go back, and I don't want to depress you or any listeners today. I mean, go back and look at the utter lack of value that they got out of drafts for many years. I mean, this is going back even pre-Millen era. You know, I mean, talk about getting nothing. And in recent years, hey, has everything been a home run for Bob Quinn? No, but you want to change the fortunes of a franchise, get value out of a 4th-round pick. Have a guy like Kenny Galladay become what he is today and what he can yet be. Even moving up to grab Carry-On, you know, that's a situation where that guy didn't play like a 2nd-round pick when he was healthy last year. So, no. You know, that's one thing that Bob wants to do. He wants to be able to get value. And, you know, when you talk about rookie contracts and you talk about having that extra year after the 1st round and everything, boy, oh boy, does that look good on any kind of salary cap sheet when you have a guy taken at that point in the draft that can come in and contribute the way that some of these guys has. Now, he has to improve it, no doubt, and his plans to get this offensive line solidified, and that was really his pet project the last 2 years, hasn't exactly panned out. But I will say again, a guy that's able to get some value later in drafts like that, you can't put a price tag on that.
No, absolutely not. So Sean, we're talking about, you know, late round picks. I want you to give us a name and a round. Do you think a certain player is going to be there for the Lions that you think is going to be a steal?
Wow, that's a great question, because I mean, there are so many guys that, especially guys when you think about you know, again, the one thing you have to remember is it always starts with the coaches, what a coach is looking for, what an NFL general manager is looking for. And I think that's the point that you have to start. You have to look at that and say to yourself, all right, so what are the type of players that a guy might like? And you know what? There are a few different guys out there, but one, I think Stanley Morgan out of Nebraska. Stanley Morgan is a wide receiver that I think could come in, and I'm not saying that he's going to become the next Kenny Galladay or anything like that, but he's one of those guys that I think some people know about, and certainly the Lions really like. Listen, guys, LJ Scott from Michigan State. I think, you know, as a guy that comes in, and last year wasn't exactly, you know, a banner year for LJ. I mean, no doubt about that. But for a guy that can come in and be the guy that can come in and be the bruising back, so to speak, and give a little change of pace to what the Lions are doing, I don't think that that's a bad pick at all. And, you know, you're talking about a guy that could go into the 6th or 7th round. And I mean, that's the type of guys that you're looking for. You know, Dakota Allen is another guy, I think, from Texas Tech that a buddy of mine has brought up. He's a linebacker. So this is the type of situation for me, guys, that there are a plethora of guys. And again, you're talking about guys that kind of fit what the mold is, I should say, for Bob Quinn, for Matt Patricia, things that they're looking for. They're looking for toughness, and that's one thing that they wanted to do. I saw it the first day of camp last year. I'm sure you guys have heard the story since then. They want to change the culture here. They want guys that, you know, are going to be guys that come in and fight. You know, David Long, a cornerback out of Michigan, that's a guy that I think a lot of people maybe aren't giving the love. But to get back on point, they want guys that are going to come in here and do battle. And last year, half the battle, in my humble opinion, was changing the culture around here. And look, the way things went before aren't going to be the way that things go from this point on. And I think by the end of the year, a lot of guys bought in. And I think, you know, bringing some guys in, especially that are familiar with Bob, that are familiar with Matt, that know what is expected of them in practices, in camp, et cetera, it's going to go a long way. But bringing those young guys in and bringing those guys that have that work ethic and that, that drive to succeed, dare I say, the chip on their shoulder because maybe they went a round or two later than some people thought they were going to do, that goes a long way.
Absolutely. Jake?
Yeah, no, that's perfect analysis, and I'm glad you said they're trying to change the culture, because too many people focus on the Patriot way and not looking at the actual change they're trying to. They're doing something that Detroit Lions fans haven't seen in a very long time, and get these hardworking guys out there and not slinging from the Pistons, the go-to-work Lions. Hopefully, they could get in there, win the battle in the trenches, because I think that's where we've been losing the last couple of years.
I agree. And guys, I don't know if you were out there or not, or you heard the stories. The first day of practice, Matt Patricia showed there was a new sheriff in town, and the way that he exploded at some players and, some of the, salty language that he used, you weren't used to seeing it around Lions camp. So it was kind of funny. We didn't do this on purpose, but a lot of us that were kind of sitting in the media stands all immediately turned around and looked at Mike O'Hara, the legend who covered the Lions forever for the Detroit News, and still doing DetroitLions.com, and I get the pleasure of doing things with him on Lions Radio. We all just instinctively looked at him, and he just goes, "Nope, never heard that around here." So it really was a kind of culture shock and something that we weren't used to seeing. But hey, that's the way that this is going to be, and I believe in these guys. For the first time in my life, and trust me, I've had people say, "Oh, you're a homer," or whatever the case may be. You know what? For the first time in my life, I think that the Lions have competent management. I really do. I mean, from Russ Thomas to Matt Millen to Martin Mayhew, who, in my opinion, as good as a guy is really all those guys were. Martin Mayhew, all he was not Matt Millen, So I don't want to compare it to previous Lions. I want to compare it to some of the best in the league. And, hopefully in a year or two time, we can be doing that with this regime.
Absolutely.
But you look at the fan base that we have, and Darren and I are both Lions slappies. We buy we go to the games, we buy the gear. And I think the fan base itself, go sees the games and they believe in this team. I think they deserve something better. And I think, I don't know, what do you think, next 3-4 years they can build towards actually achieving something in this city?
I hope so. I mean, I really do, because I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, I don't know how old you guys are. I've heard it my whole life. I have friends that, "I can't believe you're still doing that." And, part of it is, well, yeah, it's my job. And then the other part of it is, yeah, you bet I'm a fan. I was a fan long before I got in this business. I'll be a fan long until I get out of this business. I understand that I have a job to do and I have to be objective. And, I have one of those dads that, trust me, I've been hearing it for 40 years out of him. "Why are you wasting your time with this team? All I saw was losing growing up." So I've heard it enough. There's nothing that I haven't heard. I'm sure you can vouch for the same, that hasn't been said before. To me, when I hear people say it's the Lions, they stink and they're always going to stink, I always laugh, because it's think of just things in our area. Guys, growing up for me, the Detroit Red Wings were such an afterthought. They were the dead things. It was darkness with heartness, and you get the right people in place and you can change things. Michigan State football, the Golden State Warriors, for goodness sake, it's all about getting the right people in place and having them put some right people in place. So it wasn't going to happen overnight, and I don't think Bob Quinn expected to take a step forward, to take a step back, but that's what happened. And the Lions have to make the best of it. And it's all about, just saying, hey, what happened before isn't going to happen anymore. Let's be better.
Absolutely. You said it right there, Sean. Now, you being on the Lions radio on 760 WJR, you pretty much become a therapist after these heartbreaking Lions games. So just tell me, you're how are you reading the fans going into the draft and going into the season? They have 1 year of Patricia already under their belts. And, this has been year 3 or 4 of Quinn making the decisions at the helm of the team. Where's the Lions fan base heart at this point of the year?
You know what? In my opinion, I mean, you're always going to get people optimistic this time of year. I mean, there's no doubt about that. I mean, the old joke, Lions Super Bowl, whatever the case may be, you're always going to get people that are optimistic this time of year. I think there's a wait and see. I think if you are going to be fair, you have to own 6-10. You are what your record indicates. However, you dig a little deeper and you see what happened last year. I mean, number one, it's trying to change a culture. Number two, there were a slew of injuries, and I'm not sure we're ever going to find out exactly how injured Matthew Stafford was. Take a look at the wide receivers he was throwing to at the end of the year. My goodness gracious. Obviously, there were some other moves. The Golden Tate move lessened this team. The way that I look at it is this. The moves that they've made so far, forget about the draft. The moves that they've made so far, nobody can look me in the eye and tell me the Lions haven't made themselves a better team. I mean, just based on what they've done so far via free agency. They've upgraded in multiple positions, and they got, in my mind, a couple of really good players in that mix as well. So that's what the name of game is all about. Make sure you're getting better. But no, that's a good question on your part, because I don't know what the temperature of the room is quite yet. You get maybe that honeymoon period when camp starts, the first couple of weeks where people are really excited. People are, maybe, allowing themselves to think, 10-6 playoffs. And then after that, I think, everything starts to level out a little bit. So I'm not sure I can tell yet what it is. I think right now, as we sit here today, 48 hours plus away from the draft, I think there's optimism because of the draft, and let's see what happens. Matt Patricia's got to answer a lot of questions. There's no doubt about that. I'd like to say again, I think that part of it is chalked up to having to fight in the room to try to change a culture and get some guys to buy in and everything. But I think it's heading in the right direction. I'm not printing playoff tickets yet or anything like that, but I think this is a team that's going to be in the mix, guys. I really do.
Now, following up on that, last week's episode, we did something everybody else hates. We did the game-by-game breakdown because the schedule came out on the last show.
Oh, now, I love it.
We both had the Lions at 9-7, with obviously the draft coming up, and that might obviously change. But we both picked them to go 9-7, and that depends on everybody else in our division. So
yeah,
what's your opinion on that?
I had 9-7 as well, and it's funny because the guys that I work with today, we actually did one. We did a consensus one where majority wins, and there were 5 guys that did it. And so if 3 of us said win in a game, it counted as a win. If 3 of us said loss in a game, it counted as a loss. And shockingly, really it was the Lions radio crew. We came up with 10-6. So, I mean, listen, there's so many things that can happen. We don't know what the draft is yet. There's always a scrap heap or two guy. And the old adage, somebody's garbage is somebody else's treasure. Find one of those guys that's just a fit here and do what you can to improve the football team. I'll tell you what, guys, I don't think the Minnesota Vikings are as daunting. They've been on that NFL elevator for a few years now, going from 11 down to 8, going to 10, going down to 7. The Bears are pretty frightening. I mean, look, Aaron Rodgers is still in Green Bay. I'm not sure about the rest of the Packers, but Aaron Rodgers is still there. So you have to be a little bit worried about that. But you know what, guys? At the end of the day, I just don't think the Lions are a 6-10 team. I really don't. I think they improved. You're gonna get a healthy Kerryon Johnson back. You're gonna have some help around around Kenny Golladay now, and you certainly upgraded with Trey Flowers and the pieces in the defensive backfield as well. That's just before we go to the draft. So. That's what has me on a personal level excited for next year. I can see 9-7 in that area, but you guys know in today's National Football League, you guys know this. It could be plus or minus 2. I mean, that's just the way this league is right now. You could see anywhere from 7-9 to 11-5. My goodness gracious, it depends how much comes together.
No, I totally agree with that, because you never know, especially the landscape of the game today.
Yep.
I look at the Kansas City Chiefs and the way that they just run up the score and they air it out. I understand it's more of a passing league, passing focused league, but still, I really believe a great defense can keep you in pretty much any game.
Well, you know what? And I go back to that 2014 team. If we had just a little bit more of offense that year, what might have been? I mean, that defense was really, really special. I'm not putting it in a category with the Ravens of 2000 or the Bears from 85. I'm not saying anything like that. That was a special defense. And if we got just a little bit more out of that offense, who knows what might have been that particular year. But hey, that's what Bob's trying to get to, and it's all about depth, and it's all about, especially on both sides of the line, getting that rotation in there of fresh bodies and having some versatility. And certainly that's one thing that Bob has shown that he likes out of his draft picks. So it's going to be exciting to see what happens. I don't care who you are. You had to like the way the defense adjusted as the season went on last year. And I mean, coincidentally, I think it has to do with once Snacks joined this team. I mean, to say that he had an impact on this team would be a gross understatement. And now, you get Trey Flowers, and maybe you ask Jared to play a little bit more of his comfort zone as opposed to trying to go sideline to sideline. And that's why so many people are intrigued at, maybe the prospect of a guy like Devin Bush that can go sideline to sideline. But it's going to be fun to see how it pans out.
Now let's have a little bit of fun with the draft. And we want to include you in a little game that we're going to have right now, Sean, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure.
Now, let's look at the last 5 years of the Detroit Lions draft. Just for fun, what's the one player do you think Lions fans regret drafting?
Oh, it's got to be Eric Ebron. In my mind, it's got to be. And, you know what? And people get mad at me when I say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. I get why they took Eric Ebron. Yeah. I didn't like it. Yes. I that wasn't the guy that I wanted, Odell Beckham. But right. I get why they wanted him because of what we were just talking about. Just a little more offense out of 2014. And who knows what that team might have been able to do in the playoffs. I think they certainly beat the Dallas Cowboys in that now infamous game. And, who knows beyond that. But for me, I think the list starts and ends with Eric Ebron. I don't think there's anybody else, in my humble opinion, that anybody would say anything other than,
And I have to agree 100% on that one. Unfortunately, he became a really good player in Indy, but for me it is, right? But for me personally, Tease Tabor last year.
Yeah.
The year before last, 2017.
Yeah.
Second round pick.
You know what the frustrating thing about him is too, to me, is he's a very cerebral guy. He's a very smart guy. And he's got a place, I think, in the National Football League, just not the second round. You know what I mean? That might be the guy that you take later on and you say, all right, you're going to be a good nickel guy and everything. But to take him, what was he, 53rd overall, I think? Yes, to take him 53rd overall, my goodness gracious, that might be one that we end up biting our lip about.
Oh, absolutely. Because even like before the Bob Quinn era, there's been a lot of swing and misses with the Lions draft picks that obviously makes a Lions fan a little hesitant, especially all the talk about TJ Hawkinson or Noah Fant, that like, oh God, another tight end. Was this Eric Ebron and Brandon Pettigrew all over again?
Yeah. That's the one that, that goes back to the 2009 draft, where you have two of the top 20 picks. And I still say to this day, you had to take Stafford. I felt that way then. I feel that way now. I don't understand the debate about Matthew Stafford. And I'm sure you guys have heard some variation of this. You have one side say that he stinks. You have the other side say that he's great. And I disagree with both of them. I think that Matthew Stafford is a good quarterback. And I'm not comparing him to the Lions. I'm comparing him to the rest of the National Football League. I think he's a good quarterback. I really do. If you want to make the argument, well, you should expect more out of number one overall. Oh, okay, I can hear that argument. That's fine. I think he's had a good career. I think more often than not, he's had good seasons. Certainly last season doesn't count as them. But I think a lot of people were excited about that 20 pick. And, okay, what are you going to do for an encore? And to go out and take Brandon Pettigrew, it was just so to me, it was like a kick in the chops. You know, I mean, it really was. It just, I remember talking to somebody in the Detroit media, and I won't mention any names, but, you know, they said, well, I think you're underutilizing the importance of, you know, a guy that can stretch the field, but most importantly, can stay in and help protect. You know, he's really renowned for being a blocking tight end. And I said, oh, that's just what every team wants, is a blocking tight end. And you know what I mean? So, and I think that goes back to what you were just saying about Tease Tabor. I'm not saying that a guy like that doesn't have a spot in the National Football League. I'm saying, what on earth are you doing taking him at number 20 overall or number 50 overall? Yep, so that's kind of that was kind of the letdown of that one.
Yep.
Absolutely, because, you know, they've always had some questionable, especially when it comes to the offensive line. Before Frank Ragnow, I believe 2015, when they take Laken Tomlinson with the 28th overall.
Oh, yeah.
That was a colossal bust.
It was. And you know what was frustrating about that? I look at that draft across the board because, you know, Q obviously turned into a pretty good player. You know, Quandre Diggs turned into a pretty good player. And you want to see that value there. I'll tell you, guys, this shows you what I know. And I think we can all say the same thing. I thought Amir Abdullah was an absolute steal at 54. I really did. Even if you remember, even the fumbling issues he had at Nebraska, you know, one of my buddies kind of pointed out that a majority of the fumbles happened earlier in his career, and you know, he kind of fixed it. And you know, I didn't think that Amir Abdullah was going to come in and be your first, second, and third down back, because there aren't many backs like that in the National Football League anymore. Football doesn't run that way anymore. It's more of a 1A and a 1B. You know, we grew up in an era where I could go 30 years ago and still tell you the starting running back on every team in the National Football League. That's just the era that we grew up with, where you had the workhorse. But I thought Amir Abdullah, in concert with, you know, whomever else they were going to have back there, whether it be Theo, little did we know, you know, a few years later they take a carry on. But I thought Amir Abdullah was going to be a mainstay for the Lions for years to come. And maybe that's why I'm sitting where I'm sitting and guys like Bob Quinn are sitting where they're sitting.
Hindsight is always 20/20.
Sure.
Exactly. So, Sean, thanks for being on the show. We really appreciate it. But before we let you go, I got to ask, because I know you're a big hockey guy. I know you're a big Habs fan.
Go Habs, go.
Yeah, exactly. I'm a Leafs fan. We got Game 7 tonight, and I know the heartache and pain of going into Boston as a Leaf fan, and it's Game 7. Just give me your thoughts on tonight's game. Do the Leafs have a chance to pull it out?
Absolutely. There's no doubt in my mind. You know what? I like the way that Anderson's playing. I really do. Yeah. I do a little hockey podcast with Darren McCarty, good Leamington boy. And we were talking about it before the series started, and I said, you know, I don't know how many people are aware how good this kid's been playing, and you know, he certainly has been one of the stars this series. You know, the biggest thing is, and it's funny you mentioned the Habs, because you've seen the Habs do this to the Bruins a few times in the past decade. When the Bruins go Bruins, because it's gonna happen, you know it, I know it. Don't respond. Yeah. Just don't respond. Don't fall for it. And you know, even the year that the Bruins won the Cup, if you remember, 2011, it was a Nathan Horton off a broken stick goal that beat the Habs in the first round, and then the Habs upset them when they had that great team. In 14. And they went into Boston, if you remember, and knocked them off there in Game 7. When the Bruins go Bruins, don't respond. I like the Leafs' chances tonight. I really do. I know it's been an up and down, back and forth series, but I like the Leafs' chances. Again, the way that Freddie's playing, I'm not going to go against him. I don't think he's getting enough credit, quite frankly, for the way he's playing.
Oh, absolutely. He's been the lifesaver for these games. I look at Game 5. He was standing on his head the entire game. So obviously, if they get him the support and they stay out of the box, and Sean, that is critical for them to win this game. Stay out of the box.
Yep. Don't go Bruins. I mean, let the Bruins go the Bruins. Don't go Bruins. You know,
if they want to lick you, let them lick you, but don't retaliate.
You know what's funny? I mean, I think we can both attest to this. Not a fan of the Boston Bruins in any way, shape, or form. But I'll tell you what, if you're a guy and you're watching a series like that and you don't love Patrice Bergeron, you don't love hockey. I mean, he is, for years, he has been one of the most underrated players. And I think when you watch a series like this, to me, it puts into focal point just how important he is and just what a complete hockey player he is. It is, honestly, it is a pleasure watching Patrice Bergeron play hockey, and I hate myself for saying that because it's like, no, he's a dirty, stinking Bruin. But really, it's a pleasure watching him play hockey.
Absolutely. If he was on any other team besides the Bruins, I would love it. But it's the Bruins.
That's exactly it.
And you as a Habs fan, you know the nightmares that team can cause.
Well, good luck to your boys tonight. I think I speak on behalf of a lot of people when I say that they're really pulling for the Leafs. And boy, it'd be a fun scene on Yonge Street tonight, that's for sure. And we'll see what happens. Look, better times are coming for the Leafs. You don't need me to tell you that. I mean, this is just the beginning as far as I'm concerned. There's a lot better times coming, no doubt.
Exactly. You know what? I was telling a friend of mine who was all panicking, we're like, we got to go back to Boston. Like, it has to be this way. Yeah. To exercise that demon, we have to go back into the belly of the beast, and it has to be this way. You know? It's like, it's going to happen, like, it just has to be. Like, don't you want to go into their house, close them out, and then leave all those fans disappointed? That's all they gotta do. They have to win one game. So that's my biggest thing.
Game 7, nothing better in sports, guys. Nothing better in sports. Here we are talking about football, but as far as I'm concerned, there's nothing better in sports than a Game 7 in the Stanley Cup Finals.
Absolutely,
especially Stanley Cup
playoff. Especially them being the only Canadian team left.
Yep.
It's got to do something to get them amped up, because Hockey Night in Canada is just going to be Hockey Night in Canada featuring a bunch of American teams.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's Winnipeg stunned me. I really thought they were going to take the next step this year. Yeah. That kind of surprised me. The Calgary series. I mean, just how bad Colorado made them look. That was surprising. But Winnipeg's the one for me. I thought Winnipeg was, in all likelihood, ready to take the next step after that long run last year, but not to be.
Exactly. Just one last thing. I just want to get your thoughts quickly on the Detroit Red Wings bringing back Stevie Yzerman. Big kudos to Ken Holland for pretty much being the mastermind behind this. Putting his general manager title aside and taking a senior vice president role so that Stevie Y can come home.
Well, one of the things, guys, and this as big hockey fans, I think we can talk about all the wonderful things that Steve Yzerman did down in Tampa, but there's no Steven Stamkos and there's no Victor Hedman before their prime waiting in Detroit. Right. The one thing that, in my personal opinion, I'm not sure enough people around here understand and give him credit for is how shrewd he was. And, to get something, you have to give up something. And some of the deals that he made were so creative and so bombastic and, quite frankly, so risky as well. Look at the Drouin Sergachev deal. You're still taking your chances on a young defender, even though he was in your backyard. I think people certainly around the Windsor area and anybody that follows the O knew about him. But, Drouin had that unbelievable playoff. And, a lot of people thought, what are you doing taking a guy that was taken that highly in the draft? You know what? Drouin's just a good player. I mean, that's it. You got something special. So I think, to me, having a guy come in, not being afraid to swing for the fences and make that creative, risky move, because Lord knows so many of them have panned off. It doesn't hurt to get a guy like Kucherov in the second round. Make no mistakes about that.
That's a pretty good pick, yeah.
To me, Steve Yzerman and his creativity and shrewdness are going to be well served by anybody, especially here in Detroit. I think the Red Wings, the best way to put it is I think they got very comfortable following their script, following the Red Wing way. And I think it probably went on 2 years too long. And Steve's going to have to get creative to speed up this process. I like what he had to say, though. He said, we don't want to get a little bit better. We're not going to make a move to get a little bit better, to maybe just say, well, let's see if we can get in. I don't think that's the right mindset. So they certainly have a guy that knows how to do it and get creative in the process.
Absolutely. It should be exciting, especially have that old Leafs Red Wings rivalry back together again. It's going to be amazing.
You know what? Hey, guys, around here, too, I mean, seriously, you think about this. The Wings and the Habs haven't played in the playoffs since 78. The Leafs and the Habs haven't played in the playoffs since 79. The Wings and the Leafs haven't played in the playoffs since that epic game 7 back in 93. We got to change that. I mean,
absolutely.
How would it be to see a series with those three, So
God.
We'll see what happens.
Exactly. Well, that's great. Sean, thank you again so much for joining us on the ADG podcast. If you're interested in anything that Sean does, he's very knowledgeable. He's on 760 WJR and Lions Radio. So for all your draft coverage, Sean is the man when it comes to the Detroit Lions.
Well, thank you for your kind words. And guys, it is a pleasure chatting with you guys. You guys call anytime.
We appreciate it. Thanks, Sean.
Thanks a lot, Sean.
All right. Take care. Enjoy the draft, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
From expert draft analysis to expertise music analysis, Jake, who is our featured musical guest this week?
So since the draft is so inspiring, because a lot of young athletes are looking forward into their future, and a lot of things going on in the world today that need a little bit more inspiring. We have an artist today that has a special story, and I have his biography right here with me because this is a perfect show to feature him on. His name is Cryptic Kairos. I think I hope that I'm not butchering the second part of the name, but Cryptic sent me a song. He has a new album coming out. His first single is "We Live Long," and it's a really good type of, I don't want to say old school. It's more of a storytelling type of hip hop. And oh my God, people are saying, "Oh, rap again." No. You want to listen to this track. It's something special. So let me just go over this biography with you guys so you get a better idea where this is coming from. So, and he sent me this directly. So let's go word for word and bear with me. When pain enters the life of a naturally creative person, sometimes the art forms that they produce may hold a rather appealing, different, and non-conforming design. Bringing struggle to lyricism is where Cryptic Kairos' quality sound will meet with his quest to prove the world that his music industry resilience. His new single entitled "We Live Long" allows this new artist to ask questions that many of us ask when we're going through our own painful situations. He's a young Latino artist, decided to pin his heart to music after losing his older brother to gun violence, and considers his plight in music as carrying the torch for his well-respected older sibling, who was named David, who was murdered in Las Vegas, Nevada. So he's thinking outside the box for new equations to the pop rap, as you will hear. The young MC will let the stories that his older brother never got a chance to tell the world. So Hunger Alone is Cryptic Kairos represents in his personality as well as his music. So that kind of sums up what he's all about. With this title track, "We Live Long," we're going to get to hear it. It's catchy, great hook, and it's definitely on my playlist. It's one of those tracks that draws you in. So like I'm a big fan of this. Like I downloaded it, listened to it because I have to screen this music. I need to know what who we're gonna play on this show, and this is one of those songs. So we're gonna listen to Cryptic Kairos, "We Live Long" featuring KC, and we're gonna share this video because there's a lyric video to this song on our channels. So here's Cryptic Kairos, "We Live Long" featuring KC.
If our hearts on fire, who's gonna burn us out? And if the love shines brighter, try to bring me down. See, I've been thinking about one day, when I'm long gone, I'll let it go. One day, to let the world know we live long. To let the world know we live long. To let the world know we live long. Let 'em know. Tell 'em that we can live long. So I let the world know we live long.
I knew a kid who would pray every day from the pain and poverty, living in the hood with the drugs and robberies, bullied at his school by the laughs and mockery, beat him to the ground, they would laugh at comedy. He tried to find a way to end his life, death at 5, losing all his breath to life, depression with life, depressing that he's stressing in life, aggressive at times, confessions with the questions in mind though. He's so conflicted and addicted that he just can't let it go. His mom's addicted and distant, and now she won't ever know that he's a victim in prison, but keep it down on the low. He's been molested by a sitter, but he won't let it show. Yeah, it's like you can't even breathe. It's like you're living when I'm feeling, and you're screaming in dreams. It's like you're running for some demons that nobody can see. Man, I wish it was a story, cause that kid was me.
If our hearts on fire, who's gonna burn us out? And if the love shines brighter, try to bring me down. See, I've been thinking about one day, when I'm long gone, I'll let it go. One day, to let the world know we live long. To let the world know we live long. To let the world know we live long. Let 'em know. Tell 'em that we can live long. So I let the world know we live long.
Yeah, I dedicate the song to the souls who are gripping the end of the road. Noose around your neck, thinking I'm just ready to go. Ending with some letters with the layers of stories untold. Listen to the song, to the verses, the purpose, the code. They hear you breathe, but you're screaming inside, and then you wake up feeling hopeless, like you're living to die. I know you're victimized, brutalized, thinking about suicide, running cause they're coming and they're rushing, there's nowhere to hide. I know you're drugging, popping pills until you overdose, drowning your liver with liquor until you overflow. You can't contain the cocaine that is going up your nose, and crystal with the method and Rexit, just gotta let you know. We gotta stick together through all of the stormy weather. As bad as it has been, it's just gonna keep getting better. So keep your head up and just keep on standing strong. We may be forgotten, but with us together, we live long.
Life is too short to put a hold down on me. As far as my eyes can say, what I become, larger than a whole damn ocean. I'll keep me forever on the run. If I have to risk it all, then I let the world know we live long. I let the world know. I let the world know we live long. I let the world know. I let the world know we live long. I let the world know. I let the world know we live long. I let the world know. I let the world know. If our hearts on fire, who's gonna burn us out? And if the love shines brighter, try to bring me down. See, I've been thinking about one day, when I'm long gone, I'll let it go. One day, to let the world know we live long. To let the world know we live long. To let the world know we live long. Tell them that we can live long. So I let the world know we live long.
All right, so that was Cryptic Kairos, We Live Long, featuring KC. Check it out. Give him some views. Tell him ADG sent you. Comment on his YouTube. Get some views in there. Great track. Very inspirational. Let me know what you guys think. We'll share it on our page. So
Yeah,
there's that.
that's great. So Jake, from great music to another great segment on the show, your top 5.
Top 5.
Top 5.
Let's do it.
Going crazy. Top 5, no debating. Top 5, top 5, top 5.
All right. So since this is a sports show, that everything's sports, especially football, I figured I'd give you my personal top 5 of my favorite football movies.
Oh, great.
All right. So, number 5. This should be a surprise to some, not really to others. But number 5, my number 5 favorite football movie, Varsity Blues.
Great movie.
I know. It's great. Very underrated.
Exactly. I think it is because obviously if those of you who remember just Dawson Creek and James Vanderbeek,
That's right. It's entertaining. It has a lot of football in it. It's very goofy. It has some funny one-liners in it. It's a good watch. It's a good watch. Now, number 4 is a twofer. The Longest Yard. Now, you're going to ask original or remake?
Yeah.
I actually like the remake.
Really?
Yeah, I really do. Even though it's Adam Sandler and he doesn't fit the role because he's a goofy looking guy. But not bad. I actually enjoy watching the remake more than the original.
Okay.
So.
No, I know a lot of movie purists and sports purists prefer the original because it was something different,
That's right.
So
no, I agree 100%, but that's why it's a little controversial.
Obviously, you must love the acting of Stone Cold Steve Austin and Kevin Nash, right?
I think you're 100% right because the wrestlers really made the story come together. No, obviously not. They're awful, but it's still a fun movie to watch.
Exactly.
Let's get serious here. Number 3, Remember the Titans.
Great movie.
Yeah, it is.
Movie.
It is. It's a good
Definitely one of my favorite Disney live action sports related movies.
Mm-hmm. It's a good watch. It's an interesting storyline. Obviously controversial. So
yeah,
I like that at number 3. Number 2 is definitely this was close. But number 2, Friday Night Lights.
Okay.
Friday Night Lights should be my number 1, but it missed by just a little bit. Rewatch it whenever I can find it.
Yeah.
Great story, all football. Obviously, not no spoiler alert, but it's not the ending you expect because it's based on,
exactly
true events. But yeah, it's a good story.
I meant to ask you. Well, I've seen bits and pieces of it. I've yet to see the entire thing, so
I recommend it.
It's on my list. Yeah,
definitely. And number 1, We Are Marshall.
Really?
Yeah,
that's number 1 for you.
That's number 1. Yeah, it's a good
movie.
Watched it a few times. Liked it. Very inspirational. I think it makes perfect sense for today, for the show we're doing. But like I said, Friday Night Lights and We Are Marshall, very close together. Because Friday Night Lights, you kind of get the build-up, and then you have the story at the end, and then We Are Marshall, everything happens at the beginning, and then you go from that story.
Gotcha.
So, totally different movies, but there you go.
Yeah, you know what? I just want to give out a couple honorable mentions. Even though
I swear, if you say draft day, we're ending this show.
You said it is a football-related movie. I just want to give.
It's not a good one.
That it was. Hey, I thought it was pretty good. Especially I thought for sure it would make your list. Kevin Costner, come on, he's a legend.
This isn't the Postman, okay?
Oh my God. So
Waterworld.
So obviously, Draft Day was good, my personal opinion, and I'm surprised Rudy did not make your list.
Absolutely not.
Why? You have something against Notre Dame and a tough little guy making his way on his team, defying all the odds?
All of that, yes.
Well, come on.
Everything you just said.
Come on, you don't like Fat John Favreau?
No. None of that is appealing to watch.
Very skinny Vince Vaughn?
None of that movie is not appealing to me whatsoever.
Wow.
Watched it a few times. I didn't think it was very good. It's not rewatchable.
Okay. Well, Obviously,
Hey, The
Jake,
Blind Side didn't make it either. Okay, I'm not that sympathetic.
I was about to say The Blind Side. You know, an Oscar award-winning film. Obviously, not good enough
I
for
apologize to
Jake's top
Sandra Bullock
five.
for that one. I apologize.
Exactly right. But
Not
from
Miss Congeniality. Okay, it wasn't that good.
wow, did you really say that Miss Congeniality is better than The Blind Side? Wow.
That's right.
I-
ADG podcast full of controversy.
Wow. Full of controversy and obviously full of bad taste, according to Jake.
Oh, everywhere.
Oh, geez.
No,
So obviously, from Jake's top five to well, he thinks is good movies, good football movies, to actual good movies that are coming out. Jake, it's here. It's almost here. The end game is almost here. I have my ticket. I am so excited just to experience this. You have no idea
well,
how,
I
what
swear,
level of excitement I'm on.
if we're overhyped over this movie and it doesn't pan out, like it's so bad that they had to release a statement. You know, don't spoil it for anybody else. Enjoy the ride.
I think it's common courtesy. You know, they're just doing their due diligence to say, hey, I know some people are going to go see it. Don't say anything. Let everyone experience all the twists and turns of the plot and all the surprises for themselves. Because I believe Star Wars did the exact same thing when The Last Jedi came out. So.
And speaking of Star Wars, this year is you're ending a lot of sagas. Your
Yes.
Endgame, your Star Wars coming out with its last saga.
Well, they're ending this story. Star Wars is ending the main story.
Skywalker saga.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's ending. Game of Thrones is ending.
Yes.
And speaking of Game of Thrones, it was an interesting episode too.
It was the last happy episode of Game of Thrones that you will ever see.
Mm-hmm.
Because next week is all hell is gonna break loose.
And next week we'll have our hopefully we'll have our expert on again to discuss episode 3 because it looks like it's just going to be insanity.
It's gonna be nuts. You know,
we had a whole episode of build up. Can you imagine what the next one's gonna be?
Oh my God! You know what? Not to give away spoilers from the last episode, I thought it was just a nice solitude, having everyone who either fought for Winterfell or fought against Winterfell all gather at Winterfell just one final time, just
before they all die.
Yeah, before they all die. Yeah, so experiencing the last pleasures of life. Especially Arya.
Yes. Well, hey, spoiler alert. But yeah, it was a good build-up episode, and I'm looking forward to Sunday again to see what happens. And I hope it's longer than an hour because it's going to need to be.
Well, chances are it's probably going to be an hour and a half. So
yeah, I hope so.
Yeah.
Who needs sleep? I'm going to stay up and watch this thing.
Who needs sleep? You can sleep when you die.
Exactly.
So obviously a lot of great movies coming out. A lot of great TV shows are wrapping up their season or in their final season. And from movies and TV to TV game shows. And Jake, I don't know about you, but I am obsessed with what's going on in Jeopardy right now.
I have not seen it. Please tell me.
You have not seen it, but you should do your best to try to watch Jeopardy tonight because there is this contestant, James Holhauser from Las Vegas, Nevada, who is a professional sports gambler. That's right. He's a professional sports gambler. He broke the single day record, which was $131,000. He smashed it. I'm sorry. The old record was $110,000. He smashed it by winning $131,000 in one day, in one game.
That's crazy.
And 13 days. He's at 13 days of winning. He is over $900,000. So chances are he's going to hit the $1 million mark tonight. So if you're near TV around 7:30 or whenever Jeopardy comes on, watch this guy. It is unbelievable. And because I kind of like his strategy, he goes right away for the $2,000 questions. He goes for the big money questions right off the bat. which is smart. You know, you get as much money as you can, and that way, if you hit a daily double, you can increase your money that much quicker.
That's true. He's playing the odds, basically.
Oh yeah,
That's why
he
he's from
knows.
Vegas. Yeah.
Exactly. So he knows what he's doing. So obviously, the former Jeopardy kingpin, Ken Jennings, tweeted out saying, "This is absolutely insane. I've always wanted to see someone try Jeopardy wagering this much and who had the skills to back it up, because he was making wages of $20,000-$30,000 on a single question. So
Wow.
obviously he has to know what he obviously is pretty good at trivia, to say
Yeah,
this.
you have to be that confident.
Exactly. So James Holhauser, our thoughts are with you. Keep going, and hopefully you can crush that $1 million mark tonight.
Yeah, make that money.
Make that money.
Awesome. Well, going from that, and I have to sit up for this one. Closer
Okay.
to my microphone. To
Okay.
engage with my audience,
Yes.
because this desires a lot of attention here.
All right.
Our last segment of the show, our garbage person of the week. This comes no surprise to anybody who's listened to this podcast so far that this was going to happen eventually, especially now that their season ended. Yesterday being swept by the Milwaukee Bucks, losing by insane amounts. And it's not Andre Drummond, surprisingly. It's not.
No.
He's terrible. Gave up in this series, except for last night. The garbage person of the week is Tom Gores. And it is, and it's no surprise to anybody. Now, this is the dude who went yesterday after the game and did a little 7-minute conference, interviews, it was like a scrum, answer some questions. This guy actually thinks this team, the way it is right now, is pretty good. He actually said he's considering getting players to go over the go into the taxes to go over top of everybody else, keep paying more money into this team to try to win over the salary cap. Really? That's your strategy? That's not a smart strategy. I thought you were a billionaire. You're not a basketball mind.
Right.
You're a business mind. So you think that putting more money into this team that hasn't won anything, this team is made up of bench players except for maybe 2 guys.
Right.
Okay? And Blake is a good player. He is insane on this team. Amazing. That's the person you want to build the team around on. Andre Drummond is a nice extra piece to any team.
Right.
He's a nice little addition to a shooting team that needs some lackluster defense but needs some rebounds. But he's a nice addition to a team that's good. He's not a guy you build a team around. Okay? 20 rebounds, 20 assists isn't going to get you anywhere. Now, the rest of the players, well, majority of them are bench players. So you're expecting to win with those guys? Look what happened this season. You're lucky Blake actually played most of the season. He played most of the games this season, and what happened? He got hurt in the playoffs. Well, he's getting older. You want to build around this guy? You need talent. You have most of your cap into 2 guys. And since he's a business mind, he can't figure out that that's not working. So everything he said in his little presser yesterday is learning from this and, moving on and, getting better from where they are now by they'll figure it out. Really? How? You don't have a clue. There was reportedly 2 deals on the table to trade Andre Drummond. 2. And he didn't do it. You have an opportunity to get rid of a guy that does not help your team and actually get something back for him and help your cap situation, and you don't do it. There's 2 moron teams that actually tried to give you something for the guy, and you still didn't do it. What are you thinking? I know you're buddies with the guy, but it's not what's best for business. And yeah, I'm stealing that from WWE. But keeping him around is not best for business. So being such a smart guy, doing a lot of dumb shit, and it's not making the Pistons any better. So Tom Gores, garbage person of the week.
That's the coolest fucking story I've ever heard in my entire life. That's insane. Can I hear it again? Do you have time?
Boom. Time to take out the trash.
Oh God, I hope they sell the team.
or at least have someone that knows how to run an organization like that. Kind of like what Joe Dumars did when he first came in.
Exactly.
To run the front office. Obviously, there's a lot of, I just want to touch on one sports issue before we wrap it up. But the Detroit Red Wings, the worst kept secret in all of sports and hockey is that Steve Yzerman comes back to run the team as general manager. I just want to get your thoughts on that, Jake.
Well, yeah, we didn't go into a lot of that today. Today was a football show, but that was so obvious. It's the best thing that could happen to this team. You know what was going to happen a year ago, but it finally happened. I think the Red Wings are in the best position to do anything in the next 5 years just because of this one move. This one move makes them a contender within the next 3 to 5 years to do something. This is the team to be actually a fan of now. Pistons aren't going anywhere. Lions are the Lions. Tigers rebuild for the next while. But Red Wings is going to be the team in this city to actually watch.
Sure, yeah, it's going to take a couple of years, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
Get all the people that fit that mold perfectly into the system. But yeah, obviously it all starts at the top. And Ken Holland did the right thing by stepping down as GM just to move up as vice president. So
senior vice president.
Sorry, yes, senior vice president. So obviously he is still involved. So basically you have two great hockey minds running that organization. So it all starts at the top. So you have to be happy with that if you're a Wings fan going into the off season.
That's right. Hopefully they work in the younger guys and they get some younger talent, and Detroit becomes a destination for hockey once again. Hopefully,
absolutely.
And if anything that can keep this empty arena alive, now looks like it's going to be the Red Wings.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. Well, and now that they have, their prodigal son has returned. So
that's right.
Exactly. So all those Wings fans were blowing up my phone when that happened. So they're celebrating right now. So
yeah,
I wish them all.
It's a good time. Yeah.
So I think that wraps it up for this episode. It was a fantastic episode. Big thanks to Sean Baligian for joining us. And thank you for listening. If you like this podcast, like, subscribe, share it, comment, dislike, tell us we're assholes, whatever.
That's every day.
Pretty much. adgpodcast@gmail.com. That's where you can find us. If you want to send us an email, we're on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, everywhere, YouTube to find us. So, Jake, that's it for this episode.
That's it.
Yes, for the ADG podcast. I'm Darren.
And I'm Jacob.
And we are ADG.